Welcome back. You're watching The Money Show on ET Now. Let's move on. And there's an important saying that's from Albert Einstein, who says that compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it, and he who doesn't pays it. So, what exactly is compounding and how does it help in growing your wealth? Let's decode the mathematics behind compounding your wealth. And for that, we are being joined by Arun Kumar, Head of Research at fundsindia.com. Hi, very good evening, Arun, and thank you so much for your time to ET Now. When it comes to the word compounding, in Latin terms, it means put together. In terms of the financial, in a financial sense, we have seen wonders happening, but at what point in time, for my first question, would just want to know that how early one should start focusing on compounding, and then probably what sort of wonders that you have seen over the years. Share some of your experience on that front.
Yeah, so the broad idea of compounding is fairly simple. Instead of a theoretical explanation, let's say you are making 10% over 7 years, how much do you make? Now, most of us do the math saying 10% into 7, so it should probably be 70%. Now, in reality, you actually make 95%. Now, where is this 25% coming in? That's what people refer to as compounding. Now, what it does is very simple. Let's say you have $100 and then there is 10% on it. First year you make 10% on 100, which is 10 rupees. Now, mentally, we think the second year also it will be the same 10, but we forget that the 10 rupees also gets added to your base, and now your base is 110. So the same 10% return is now able to provide you 11 rupees instead of 10. And eventually, the next year, it's probably at 121 as a base, you make 12 rupees. So eventually, this gets added, and that's how you see that extra 25 that I was talking, right? So net, the broad idea of compounding is that initially it is your original amount that takes the load, but over a period of time, your returns also provide an additional amount which gets added to your base. And the same 10%, say on 1 lakh, is very different from 10 lakhs. But so the whole idea is that your returns keep adding, and over a period of time, while initially it's the base is small, once the base becomes large, the same impact of that returns become disproportionately larger, and that's what is broadly called as compounding. And roughly say you take 12% returns, it means you essentially double every 6 years. So first 6 years you are 2x, the next 6 years you're 4x, then the next 6 years you're almost 8x. So the it almost gives you 4x extra in this 6 years, and after that it's additional 8, so you're almost at 16x. So you can see that initially it's a little slow, but then the moment it hits you, and then it becomes like insanely high. So the broad idea is very slow, and then all of a sudden it starts making meaningful jump. So that's the in a crux. That's how compounding kind of gets it powerful in the longer run.
Definitely, compounding gets powerful in the longer run. But Arun, when one wants to look at compounding, then especially looking at investing in markets, so there are two options available. Firstly, either they get into direct equities, or rather they make a plan to invest through mutual fund portfolios. So, as per your experience, which of amongst them has done better in terms of compounding, or rather, you can answer that. What are the pros and the cons one needs to take care of? Either they are planning to go for compounding, or maybe explore the world of compounding through mutual fund or through direct equities.
Right. See, in essence, the compounding is very simple math. So whatever returns that you get gets translated into the math. So now the key question is, where do you get better returns over long? Now, obviously, mutual funds are nothing but a collection of stocks. So instead of you picking it, you are basically outsourcing it to an expert. So net, both ways, like the question is like, is it direct stocks better or mutual fund better? Net, in both ways, you are investing into stocks. So the whole question is all about how good are you at stock picking. Now, if you can pick brilliant stocks and you are a great stock picker, then maybe you might do well. But let's say a mutual fund where you've already outsourced it to another expert, that expert is also going to do the same thing, but probably it is far more diversified so that the risk is lower. And if you can identify a good fund, then overall you are reasonably ensured that you get a reasonable return over the long period of time. So net, the broad idea would be that you will get the underlying returns from a collection of stocks. Now, if you are a stock picker, then obviously you can do it on your own. But otherwise, it's far more effective to outsource it if you already have a day job and you don't want to spend your time on. So I think compounding net is pretty much the same across both, depending on. So finally, the net point is that what is the return that you make through the stock selection and construction of portfolio is finally what will change. I mean, will decide the final outcome.
Just wanted to understand that if somebody is looking to invest an amount of maybe 10,000 in SIPs, then going ahead, what sort of a return expectation that person will be having? Any thumb rule where he can plan his investments? Any rule that you wish to highlight on that front?
Yeah, see, one way, see, while compounding is very counterintuitive and it's very difficult to think about how it works in SIP, purely from a mathematical point of view, the way to start thinking about it is that let's say you invest 10,000 every month and you are able to generate 12% from, let's say, equity mutual funds. Then it will take you almost 8 long years to hit your first 16 lakhs. But that's when the magic starts. The next 16 lakhs that you want to get won't take you 8 years. It takes you only half the time. It takes you only 4 years. And then again, the next 16 lakhs comes in 3 years. Then the next 16 lakhs comes in 2 years. And after that, it's almost one three-fourths of a year. Then 1.5 years. And then eventually it comes to 1 year, sub 1 year. So the key thing to remember is the rule of 843 if at 12%. So whichever is the amount, let's say you put 30,000, then you make 50 lakhs in the first 8 years. The next 50 lakhs comes in the next 4 years. And then the next 50 lakhs comes in the next 3 years. So the key point is that once you cross the first 8 years, that's when the power of compounding starts to kick in. And the longer you go, probably once you cross 15, 16, 17 years, you almost shrink it down to 1.5 years, right? And then the period required to what it took you 8 years will probably take you only sub 1 year as you progress through time. So that's the whole. So a simple way to remember this would be the rule of 843, right? So I think this is something that can be very useful.
Interesting to know the rule of 843, how over the years you are planning or you're looking your money getting doubled and even more than that. But Arun, when it comes to lump sum investment, what does this number comes out to be?
See, again, for lump sum, it's fairly simple. If you're looking at 12%, roughly you will double every 6 years. If you're assuming 10%, then roughly it will double every 7 years. So you can use this math to figure out saying however long you plan to stay. See, again, the caveat in both the rules, let's say the 843 or doubling in 6 years for 12%, is that equity returns are obviously not linear, right? So which means over longer periods of time, while your returns get a little more stable, let's say unfortunately in the end of 6th year there is a large market crash, say something like COVID happened and markets are down 40%. Obviously you won't get the 12% return, but as we all know, the markets inevitably recover over the next 1 or 2 years, right? So overall the idea is that these are not precise. I mean, while these are mathematically precise statement, unfortunately equity markets are a little volatile, so which means the more and more longer time frames you have, more or less you get close to these. So there are chances there where you might not exactly meet these numbers at the end of 6 years, but probably if you extend it by say 7 or by another 1 or 2 years, most likely once the market recovers, you will end up coming close to the whatever 10-12% number. And historically, if you look at the odds, like for the last 23 years, Nifty 50 total return index roughly doubled every 7 years at 80% of the times, and 65% of the times it's doubled every 6 years, and it's almost tripled every 10 to 11 years, almost 80% of the time. So we know that mathematically the odds are by your side. Those 20% of the times where the odds don't work out for you, you might need to extend it by 1-2 years. So you can look at this as a rough thumb rule, but again, and the odds are by your side. But the key point is if you don't hit that number by that end point, you will need to be mentally okay to extend it by 2 or 3 years. But the broad idea is that the longer the time frame, 15-year plus, is where you really see that power of compounding actually kick in big time.
Okay, but Arun, now I'll be coming up with a couple of examples and I want you to do the maths. The examples are from like somebody who is starting very early with a very small investment over the years. How can the money grow in that scenario? As well as going towards somebody who is starting late but with a good corpus or with a good amount, and then how compounding works. So firstly, if somebody is quite young in age and starting with a minimum of rupees 500 say, and he wish to stay invested for the next 35 years, so can you come up with the maths that how this money will grow?
Yeah, so you can use any calculator available on the internet. So roughly, the math would work out that at 500 rupees that you are investing for 35 years, you are basically putting in roughly close to 2 lakh 10,000, and the end value that you will get at say 12% returns is roughly close to 32 and a half lakhs. So while you have only put say close to 2 lakhs, you almost end up adding 30 lakhs extra thanks to the power of compounding. Because the critical point here is that while your amounts are very small, the time that you give is reasonably large. It's almost 35 years. So that's where you see that the end outcome is very, very different from the small amount that you've invested.
Around somebody who is around 35 years of age, and now if I just double the amount, which is say 1,000 rupees, and for the next 25 years he wish to stay invested, how will the magic works out here?
Yeah, so in this case, you will overall end up close to investing close to 3 lakhs, and your final outcome will be somewhere close to 19 lakhs, assuming a 12% return. So it's nowhere close to the 32 lakh, 32 and a half lakhs you saw in the last case. But again, because you are losing out on the edge of time, because you're almost 10 years short compared to the previous one, and especially the power of the last 10 years is far more critical. So, which is why once your time shortens, you will find that the disproportionate impact also kind of shortens. But nevertheless, this is still a great result because you're investing, putting 3 lakhs, and still you're ending up close to 19 lakhs.
Who is like at the maybe the second half of his life and near to the 45 years of age, and then he is planning to invest 1,500, which is like triple or the amount, the example we started with, and then maybe for the next 15 years he wish to stay invested, so the total investment amount is quite close to the first two examples, but what will be the end value?
Right. So the amount is pretty close to the previous two. It's almost 2.7 lakhs. But the final value is only sub 8 lakhs. It's almost 7.6 lakhs to be precise. So you can see that because you do not have too much time, you only have 15 years. But still you've made far higher than what you invested. The impact of the disproportional impact of compounding is not able to play out well because you're only invested for 15 years vis-a-vis the first one where you had invested for close to 35 years. So that's the magic of time in terms of the additional kicker it can bring to your overall money.
Yes, Arun, definitely. I just wanted you to do the simple maths for our viewers so that we can tell them that how compounding works and the magic works when you start early at your stage, and then you can just see your money growing and flourishing. But with this, we let you go on that, Arun. Thank you so much for joining us today on ET Now and helping our viewers understand that how to make the magic work of compounding when it comes to the financial investments. Great having you. Time to slip into a short break, but don't go anywhere. As we come right back, we'll be joined by Kirtan, who will be there to answer all your mutual fund portfolio queries. So stay tuned for more.